is Monday, June 12th. Democrats making new moves in the Russia probe with calls to grill President Trump under oath.
There's been no evidence of it. I don't think that should continue.
They're setting up to go after Trump. I think this is going to be a witch hunt.
The brand new push from a Democrat to put Loretta Lynch in the hot seat.
You can apologize all you really want, but in the moment, you should have already known.
Well, American Pride denied. Some outrage over a teen who was blocked from walking at his graduation in his military uniform. What his school is now saying about this.
And you better pack your patience. Why, you might have to wait just a little bit longer to board your flights this summer. Fox and Friends First starts right now.
Fox and Friends First. I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Heather Childers. Thank you so much for starting your day and your week with us. Let's get right to our top story for you, though. One of the nation's top Democrats demanding an investigation into whether Loretta Lynch covered for the Clinton campaign.
Yeah, this is liberal lawmakers make new moves in the Russia-related President Trump probe. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington this morning with the GOP firing back, saying, give it up already. Right, Griff?
That's right. Good morning, Rob and Heather. The top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Dianne Feinstein, says she is concerned after James Comey's revelation that former Attorney General Loretta Lynch asked him to call the Clinton email investigation a matter, and she's calling for her committee to look into it.
I can't answer that. I would have a queasy feeling, too, though, to be candid with you. I think we need to know more about that. And there's only one way to know about it, and that's to have the Judiciary Committee take a look at that.
This comes as Attorney General Jeff Sessions is scheduled to appear before the Senate Intelligence Committee tomorrow, although it's unclear if he will testify in open or closed session. And that's not the only target Democrats are calling to testify. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer inviting President Trump to come before Congress under oath to address the cloud hanging over this presidency.
I'd like to invite the president to testify before the Senate. I think we could work out a way that it could be dignified, public, with questions, with Leader McConnell.
But Republicans have become frustrated and fed up with the Russia probe. Citing a lack of evidence, RNC Chairwoman Rhoda McDaniel says it's time to move on.
I'm calling for an end to the investigations about the President Trump's campaign colluding with the Russians. There's been no evidence of it. I don't think that should continue. Of course, we need to figure out what Russia did with regards to the election. The president has said that. But not yet do you have a single senator saying that there is definitive evidence that there's been any collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. That needs to stop.
Also tomorrow, guys, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein takes to Capitol Hill, will testify before the House Appropriations Committee. So here we go again. A lot more hearings this week. It's going to be a busy week.
Another one.
Shocker. Well, we say that every Monday. All right, Griff, thanks so much.
Griff. Well, that does bring us to a look at who's talking now. And this morning, former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich is calling on the GOP to put an end to the special counsel investigation into Russia.
First of all, look at what Comey said. Comey said, I deliberately leaked through an intermediary to create this counsel, who happens to be one of his closest friends. Then look at who Mueller's starting to hire. I mean, these are people that, frankly, look to me like they're setting up to go after Trump, including people, by the way, who have been reprimanded for hiding from the defense information in two major cases. I think this is going to be a witch hunt. I think that Comey himself, by his own testimony, tainted this particular process. You have a director of the FBI deliberately leaking in order to create a special counsel who we're now supposed to believe is going to be this neutral figure. I think that's just nonsense.
Okay, in just a matter of hours, the Supreme Court could rule on whether to enforce President Trump's travel order. The issue is the pause on citizens from Muslim-majority nations about religion, or is it about national security? The Trump administration vowing the executive order puts America first and will allow time for the administration and the government to come up with a tougher vetting process. Opponents of this plan have until 3 this afternoon to file a response.
With some terrifying moments, thousands of feet in the air, a plane packed with people forced to make an emergency landing after this massive hole ripped wide open in the jet's engine. It happened on takeoff.
The left engine made a funny sound like a dropped a piston or something.
Some of our friends that were with us smelled burning. It got really loud and it was like Then they started moving everyone from the left side of the plane over and shutting the windows.
I feel blessed that it wasn't much worse than it looked.
We really had no idea what was happening.
Yeah, they certainly were blessed. The China Eastern flight headed to Shanghai forced to circle for an hour before landing safely back in Sydney. The cause of the damage is under investigation. Well, British authorities arresting a 19-year-old man overnight in connection with the London terror attack, the 21st arrest in the case. This as we get our first look at the fake suicide vest worn by the three terrorists. And police say that the blood-spattered pelts made from plastic water bottles wrapped in duct tape were designed to create maximum fear. 8 people were killed after the attackers drove into pedestrians before going on a stabbing spree, police shooting and killing them to end the horror.
Well, check this out. A terror leader kicking off the Puerto Rican Day Parade in New York City. Oscar Lopez Rivera cheered and also booed while standing on his float in New York City. Rivera, whose terror group back in the 70s and 80s claimed responsibility for more than 100 bombings across the U.S., including one in Lower Manhattan that killed 4 people. He was supposed to receive the National Freedom Award, but actually declined after a major backlash. He just got out of prison. This on the same day as thousands of Puerto Ricans overwhelmingly voted to become the 51st state in the United States. The U.S. territory is a financial disaster as we speak. Congress has the final say on whether or not that happens. A real-life political drama playing out on stage. Corporate sponsors rushing to drop taxpayer-funded Shakespeare in the Park. This after the play portrayed President Trump being brutally assassinated. Robert Gray is live in Los Angeles this morning with the very latest. Robert.
Hey, Robin, Heather, that's right. This production clearly creating controversy with a pair of major corporate sponsors pulling their support. Delta Airlines and Bank of America both ending their sponsorship of the Public Theater's Julius Caesar. Now, this production is set in modern times with the title character sporting blonde hair, wearing a blue suit, and has a Slavic wife. Ring a bell? Anyone familiar with their Shakespeare knows how this one turns out. The Roman emperor is literally stabbed in the back and killed by his supposed friends and foes. Both Delta and B of A objected to the way the lead character is portrayed so closely to the president. Bank of America's statement said this production is presented in a way that was intended to provoke and offend, adding if this intention had been known to the bank, it would not have sponsored it. Meanwhile, Delta is saying no matter your political stance, the graphic staging of Julius Caesar does not reflect that company's values. It went on to say the play crossed the line on, quote, the standards of good taste. Both companies pulled sponsorship immediately on Sunday, although the show has been playing since May 23rd and runs for just another week. Now, there has been some backlash on social media toward the sponsors. No word yet from Amex, but the New York Times says it backs the theater's, quote, right to stage the production as they choose. Now, for its part, the play's director said in a statement, people who see this production of Julius Caesar will realize in no way it advocates violence towards anyone. Heather and Rob, back to you.
Interesting. It's been going on for so long.
Interesting they didn't learn anything from Kathy Griffin.
Right. Good point.
You got to figure this out at some point. Robert, thanks so much.
Thank you. Well, from the park to the main stage on Broadway, stars taking aim at President Trump at the Tony Awards.
Huge production values. Couple problems. Main character is totally unbelievable. And the hair and makeup, yeesh. This DC production is supposed to have a 4-year run, but reviews have not been kind.
Well, as for the awards, yes, there were those. Dear Evan Hansen was the big winner. The show about a young man struggling with social anxiety, taking home 6 Tonys, including Best Musical, and Bette Midler winning her first Tony for the Best Musical Actress for Hello, Dolly.
I'd like to thank the American Theater Wing to begin with, and all the Tony voters, many of whom I have actually dated. On Airing Eye, his...
Well, actor and Tony winner Kevin Spacey hosted the ceremony in New York City. Yeah.
All right, we got a little bit of fun stuff to talk about here. You know, I thought you were already married, Janice, when I saw this, but it's a marriage so nice, Janice Dean decided to say I do twice. Our own meteorologist renewing her vows to her husband, Sean, celebrating their 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, the two retying the knot in this beautiful ceremony. Over the weekend, it was at Holy Trinity Church in Manhattan in front of family, friends, and their two boys. And Janice, I got to say, I saw the picture from, what, 10 years ago, and you look exactly the same.
Oh, my gosh.
You do.
I owe you breakfast.
No joke.
Now I can start crying. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, it was important to do. We did it at City Hall 10 years ago, and we wanted our kids to take part and some of our close friends. I'm so glad to share those pictures with you guys this morning. Welcome to my honeymoon. You know what? And I've got some good news if you like it hot, okay? 95 here in New York City. Now, I don't know, if you like it to cool down a little bit, it's going to happen this week. So we'll get the warm temperatures in today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, and then things start to cool off with a little bit of shower activity across the country. The hot temperatures and the wedding, I'm not sure if they correspond or if that happened for a reason. Let's look at the current temperatures right now. 76 in New York, 68 in Minneapolis, 62 in Provo, 53 in Seattle. There's your satellite radar imagery. So we have a system moving across the Great Lakes as well as the northern Rockies and the Gulf. Across the Gulf, we're watching an area of disturbance that could bring the potential for showers and thunderstorms this week. And then we're going to watch this system cross over the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, and that is what is going to bring those cooler temperatures in towards the Northeast midweek. Thanks for sharing my special day.
So you don't have two husbands?
I
don't know why you would want one.
No, we just one. I'm going to keep him. He's a keeper.
That's great. We love it.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Janice. Well, speaking of family, the first family reunited. First Lady Melania Trump and son Barron officially moving into the White House. They were waiting for the 11-year-old to finish the school year in New York City. We've told you about that. Melania tweeting this photo from inside the White House with caption, "Looking forward to the memories we'll make in our new home." And don't miss another member of the first family, Ivanka Trump, live this morning on Fox and Friends at 7 a.m.
All right, the Stanley Cup staying in the Steel City. The Pittsburgh Penguins winning their second straight championship.
Penguins again are the Stanley Cup champions.
The Penguins defeating the Nashville Predators 2-0 in Game 6. Sidney Crosby winning playoff MVP for a second straight year. Nashville couldn't pull out the win that they needed at home despite country music superstar Faith Hill pumping up the crowd right before the game. Well, a lot of the media portraying this weekend's nationwide protests against Sharia law as protests against Islam.
The clashes erupting into brawls here at home over Islam.
Protesters and counter-protesters squaring off across the country tonight, either against the threat of Islamic law or in defense of Muslim Americans.
Activists say anti-Sharia groups promote a distorted view of Islam.
But did they tell the entire story here? That's the big question. Here with more on that, Muslim scholar and author of the book In the Land of Invisible Women, Dr. Kanta Ahmed. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming in this morning. I guess my first question is, and for a lot of people that don't understand it, the difference between Sharia and Sharia law.
Sharia literally means the life-giving central path. It's all the values that keeps a Muslim in a God-centered direction. Today I'm fasting as part of Ramadan.
Sure.
That's all that Sharia means. Sharia law, developed 500 years after Islam was revealed, is a complicated amalgam of principles that are considered laws, but they're really moral prescriptions, and huge variety in terms of severity and benign aspects to them. It depends on who's interpreting them.
And that's the next thing I want to get to. There are some examples of some of the, much less popular and gruesome points of Sharia law can be oppression of women, honor killings, killing of the wife if she, I think, strays, homophobic violence, female genital mutilation. These are perversions.
So all
of
these
Sharia,
things
right?
that you're mentioning may have been conducted in the name of Islam, but are profoundly un-Islamic, and that's having lived under the harshest Sharia law there is in Saudi Arabia, where I lived for 2 years.
Right.
Even they don't have laws for these things. But as some of the protesters were do not want Sharia law in the United States. Sure. As a believing Muslim who follows Sharia, I am in agreement. Right. I think that's the correct thing to do.
And it is interesting, and I think that got confused. Is this a protest of Islam, or is it a protest of these laws, which are human rights violations that I think everybody can agree with in nations like Pakistan, in nations like Saudi Arabia, right?
Afghanistan and Iran, there are gross distortions which their own citizens are campaigning against. For instance, preventing blasphemy laws or the persecution of Christians. Muslims are protesting that in countries run by Sharia.
What we saw when we saw the violence in this, we saw counter-protesters coming out and trying to spin this into an anti-Muslim, anti-Islam kind of movement, and counter-protesting these things that we're talking about, counter-protesting honor killings, counter-protesting oppression of women, violence against women and homosexuals. How do you counter-protest something like that?
So I think what you're referring to is what I call the commodification of Islamophobia. Yeah. Claiming all discussions relating to Islam are somehow Islamophobic, portraying anybody that's concerned about human rights violations is considered Islamophobic. I think there are more productive ways to discuss this than violent protests. Right. But there are many that are trying to portray Muslims in America as victims, and we are not victims. We are hugely socially progressive here. We make a great deal of money. We have many opportunities. The United States Constitution protects us. We cannot accept this industry that is trying to portray American Muslims as victims, and that's what they're doing. And that's actually a movement that comes from the philosophy that supports the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslims in the West must be portrayed as a victimized minority religion when we are nothing of the sort.
Very, very interesting stuff. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay, Heather, over to you.
All right, thank you. The time now is about 20 minutes after the top of the hour. And coming up, Iran deal low. What the Obama administration didn't want you to know about. They could have stopped the deal in its tracks.
They said they had extra cap and gown. I said, sorry, I can't do that. That's defacing the uniform.
And American Pride denied, outrage boiling over after teen is blocked from walking at graduation in his military uniform. What the school is now saying about it. Stay with us. Welcome back. A Fox Business Alert for you now. A major announcement expected from the White House today.
That's right. Tracy Carrasco from our sister network, Fox Business, here with the details on the Workforce Development Program that's set to be unveiled. Tracy.
Good morning, guys. Now, the White House is calling this week Workforce Development Week. The administration plans to reorganize current workforce development programs and make existing spending more efficient rather than make a large increase to federal funding for these programs. The administration will also announce steps to make it easier for businesses and trade groups to create new apprenticeship programs. Now, Ivanka Trump will lead this week's initiatives.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sure.
Well, so there's a recall, though, to tell you about. Not so good. Chef Boyardee.
Nope. Now, ConAgra Brands, that's the maker of Chef Boyardee. They're recalling more than 700,000 pounds of canned pasta and other products as a result of mislabeling. Now, take a look at this list of products and check your pantry. The recall affects spaghetti and meatball products that contain milk, which was not listed on the product's labels. The mislabeled cans were produced between January 5th and the 12th.
Yeah, you got to be careful of that if you don't deal with lactose very well, like I don't. Yeah, absolutely.
That could be a problem.
Absolutely. All right, so my least favorite government agency, the TSA, going to have some problems this summer, huh?
Yeah, you know, there's going to be an estimated 4% more people traveling this summer. That's a new stat out from Airlines for America. This comes just as the TSA is testing out new screening procedures. They're taking a closer look at carry-on items at 10 airports. Passengers will have to remove more items from those already jam-packed carry-ons, which could lead to longer lines and, of course, unhappy travelers. Now, electronics larger than a cell phone will need to be placed in a separate bin, and other smaller items like books and even food will need to be taken out. Yeah.
I just flew out last weekend. I was on vacation, and I will say for the first time ever, it was 7 a.m., not one person in line.
Wow.
I mean, I literally walked right through at Newark Airport.
For you.
It was unreal.
Love
kind of
that.
weird.
Tracy, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Guys.
Well, some other news headlines for you now. A high school student barred from walking at graduation because of his service uniform. Harlan Fletcher, a U.S. Army Reserve medic, says that he was originally told that it was okay to wear his Army blues. But when he showed up to the ceremony in California, administrators turned him away.
They said they had extra cap and gown. I said, sorry, I can't do that. That's defacing the uniform. That's against, the uniform policy.
Well, the school has apologized to Fletcher, thanking him for his service.
Yeah. This story ticked a lot of people off, myself included. All right, a food critic sparking online outrage, saying that you shouldn't eat Chick-fil-A because it has Christian values and conservative views. The ownership does. Ryan Sutton's article for Eater.com instantly backfired on him, actually tweeting why. Because it's delicious, because they pay their employees well, treat customers with respect. I'll eat there twice today. Another person posting, so basically you hate Chick-fil-A because of the founder's religious beliefs. That is actual bigotry. There you have it.
There's some delicious sandwiches.
There's some good chicken over
there.
there.
And their waffle fries. Well, the time now is 26 minutes after the top of the hour. And lucky to be alive, how one neighborhood is coming together after a massive explosion leveled 4 homes.
Also not fit for print, the high school accused of photoshopping Trump logos out of their yearbook. And this happened more than once.
And the surprise of a lifetime for this plane full of passengers, the amazing gesture from former President Jimmy Carter that has the internet swooning. A little wham to wake you up this morning.
Classic George Michael. I miss him.
Get you moving and happy. Good morning. You are watching Fox and Friends First. I'm Heather Childers.
And I'm Rob Schmidt. It is 30 minutes after the hour. And straight to our top story this morning. One of the nation's top Democrats demanding an investigation into whether Loretta Lynch covered for the Clinton campaign.
This as some Democrats call on President Trump to take the stand. Griff Jenkins is live for us in D.C. with the GOP firing back, saying, give it up already. Right, Griff?
That's right. Good morning, Heather and Rob. Senator Dianne Feinstein is calling for an investigation after revelations that former Attorney General Loretta Lynch asked James Comey to call the Clinton email investigation a matter.
I can't answer that. I would have a queasy feeling, too, though, to be candid with you. I think we need to know more about that. And there's only one way to know about it, and that's to have the Judiciary Committee take a look at that.
This comes as Attorney General Jeff Sessions is scheduled to appear before the Senate Intelligence Committee tomorrow, although it's unclear if he will testify in public or behind closed doors. And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer inviting President Trump to come before Congress to testify under oath, but also acknowledging the new Comey developments.
I'd like to invite the president to testify before the Senate. I think we could work out a way that it could be dignified, public, with questions, with Leader McConnell.
But Republicans, they're simply fed up with this Russia probe. RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel calling for an end to these investigations.
I'm calling for an end to the investigations about the President Trump's campaign colluding with the Russians. There's been no evidence of it. I don't think that should continue. Of course, we need to figure out what Russia did with regards to the election. The president has said that. But not yet do you have a single senator saying that there is definitive evidence that there's been any collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. That needs to stop.
In addition to Sessions' testimony, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein set to appear before a House committee. So we'll have lots of questions there and hear lots more about it. It's a congressional testimony week, guys.
Yeah, and Republicans should appreciate Feinstein calling out Lynch on that, because Loretta Lynch on that, because Pelosi tried to just brush it off as though it was nothing. So it was interesting to see her say that. All right, Griff, thanks so much.
Thank you, Griff.
All right, that brings us now to Look Who's Talking. And this morning, Karl Rove, former senior advisor and deputy chief of staff for George W. Bush, says there is absolutely no case to be made against the president for obstruction of justice.
This is not obstruction of justice. This is not illegal. He is the head of the executive branch.
I didn't say it was. I specifically said I don't know whether it is.
He's the head of the executive branch. He could have directed him to end the investigation.
He could have pardoned Mike Flynn, actually.
He could have pardoned Mike Flynn, but he could have directed him to end the investigation, and it still would have been appropriate. He would have had a huge political price to pay, but he's the head of the executive branch of government. We once had an FBI director who thought he did not report. I don't see anything here that a reasonable person would say was in violation of the law. The president did not obstruct justice. The president did something that was inappropriate but not illegal. In fact, it is legal. It is the President of the United States could direct him to end the investigation, and he's within his authority as the President of the United States. And he did not. In fact, he said, I hope you go find out what those satellites, Manafort, Carter Page, and others were doing. So I say the die is cast.
And then there's this part of the story. James Comey could be set for a $10 million payday. Publishers reportedly scrambling to sign a tell-all book deal with the fired FBI director, hoping to get the inside scoop about Hillary Clinton's email scandal and his private conversations with President Trump. Hollywood also reportedly lining up as well.
All right, just hours from now, 18 fraternity members charged in a hazing death at Penn State are due in court. Back in February, 19-year-old Timothy Piazza died after falling down a flight of stairs at a pledge event following a night of heavy drinking. Nobody called 911 until the next morning. All 18 students face a range of charges, including involuntary manslaughter and aggravated assault. Also in court today, Montana Representative-elect Greg Gianforte is expected to plead guilty to attacking a reporter.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last time you came here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here.
Well, that taking place last month, the day before that special election. Gianforte still won, but faces a maximum of 6 months in jail for misdemeanor assault. He is scheduled to be sworn into Congress later this month.
And we'll see what happens there. Meantime, a semi-truck explodes into a ball of fire. If you can see through that thick black smoke, that's a tractor trailer that struck a barrier and then burst into flames north of Tampa, Florida. The driver was airlifted to a trauma center with burns covering 40% of his body. He is listed in critical condition. That crash is still under investigation. And it is a miracle that no one was killed. That is what an Illinois community outside of Chicago is saying after this devastating explosion leveled 2 homes and damages more than 50 others. Crews pulling 4 people from the wreckage of one of those nearby homes in Marengo. That is taking 2 of them to the hospital. Officials think that a gas leak caused the blast.
Okay, going to talk some weather this morning, and it's actually a great day to talk about the weather because we had a great weekend, at least here on the East Coast. 90 degrees?
Yeah, absolutely.
Something else.
We're going to break records today, Rob, if we get to 95 here in New York City, as well as D.C., across the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest. 150 million people are going to feel this heat wave this week, but then the temperatures are going to break as we head into Wednesday and Thursday and Friday with temperatures more seasonal. Quick look at your satellite radar imagery. Gulf Coast still seeing some unsettled weather across the Great Lakes as well. Then our next storm system moves across the Northwest, then across the central U.S., the Great Lakes, and that's what's going to bring us relief on Wednesday. For now, the heat is on for, much of the country, 2/3 of the country here, 90-degree heat. We're looking at showers across the Gulf as well, 95 here in New York City. Cool enough for snow across the northern and central Rockies. So that's the cool area, but the rest of the country feeling that heat wave. Rob and Heather, back to you.
It's kind of crazy when you're talking about heat waves and snow at the same time.
It's true. It keeps me in business.
That's exactly right, Janice. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Well, passengers on a Delta flight getting the surprise of a lifetime. The 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, also on their plane from Atlanta to D.C.
Schlepping on a commercial plane. Before taking off, the 92-year-old slowly walked down the aisle, making sure he shook every single passenger's hand.
Mr. President. What a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
One passenger tweeting, it was really nice to have that kind of moment where party or politics didn't matter.
God, isn't that the truth these days?
And no fights on the plane.
Exactly. He didn't break out into violence. And a special happy birthday to former President George H.W. Bush, the 41st president, celebrating his 93rd birthday today.
Very nice. He shares his birthday week with wife and former First Lady Barbara Bush, who just turned 92. The couple have been married for 72 years. It's awesome. They are the longest wed first couple in U.S. history. Congratulations.
Once you get over the 70-year mark, I've heard it's all downhill.
Yeah.
You know, marriage gets a lot easier.
I think they're definitely best friends.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. And foul-mouthed Democrats desperately trying to win back voters with profanity-laced tirades.
Has he kept any of these promises? No. Sorry. I understand this is a younger audience. It's okay.
So, have they crossed a line of fair and balanced debate? Up next.
And fake photos. Parents outraged after their kids' yearbook pictures are photoshopped to remove Trump's name. Looks like a golf shirt there. Huh. Stay tuned. Well, this morning, a blow to the Obama administration, reportedly keeping a major Iranian cyber attack a secret. The Washington Free Beacon revealing Iran hacked the emails and social media accounts of State Department officials during a critical stage of the nuclear deal back in 2015. And critics say the administration hid this attack from the public because they feared it could harm support for that deal that they were so proud of. Obamacare may give you health insurance, but it doesn't mean it's good quality. In fact, more people prefer getting coverage somewhere else, it turns out. A new Gallup poll finds 81% of people who buy insurance outside the Obamacare exchanges like the quality of their care. But in comparison, just 74% of those who bought from the exchange are satisfied. Heather, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rob. Well, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand continuing the Democrats' trend of ripping President Trump in a speech filled with cursing.
Has he kept any of these promises? No. No. Instead, sorry. I understand this is a younger audience. It's okay. Fundamentally, if we are not helping people, we should go home.
So, is there a way of connecting with younger voters, or have Democrats cross the line with the swearing? Here to debate are Republican strategist Patrick Griffin and Democratic strategist Atima Omar. Thank you both for joining us bright and early this morning.
You're welcome.
So, Atima, I'm going to start with you. On the Democratic side, what's going on here? I mean, is this a sign that you're more intelligent or less intelligent if you have to use curse words to get your point across?
No, absolutely not. Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator, she's this is not the first time, definitely, she's sworn. She tends to have colorful language and has admitted that quite a few times in her book and other venues. But I would say that, you know, if this is sort of where the GOP is going in attacking her, it's certainly to distract from the fact that they have a majority in the House and the Senate and the White House, and just haven't been able to get a lot of their legislative agenda passed. So I think this is an interesting way to sort of distract from that, is focusing on language that she's using.
What do you think, though, Patrick? I mean, isn't she using these words just for the simple fact that we'll be talking about her like we are right now this morning? I mean, she's using it herself versus Republicans using it as a distraction.
Well, Heather, here's what happens when you have no message or no counter message. What you wind up doing is lowering the level of political discourse to that of a 13-year-old boy's sleepover. I mean, this has become sort of the new way the Democrats talk, and seems to be the only way this lost party can get itself any attention whatsoever. Look, these are the same Democrats that gather at Georgetown cocktail parties over the latest crisp Chardonnay from California and bemoan President Trump for his tone and the way he talks. He is lowering the political discourse. He is not sort of being, advanced enough in his policy ideas. And his tweets, those are outrageous. But when they use this kind of language, oh, it's fine. It's just passionate. It's the way Senator Gillibrand talks. Again, a bankrupt party with no ideas is desperate for attention, and that's when you start talking like this.
And, you know, she's not the only one either, Atima. Listen to what Tom Perez had to say. This is what he said.
When we have the skinny budget of this president, he calls it a skinny budget. I call it something else that begins with S. And my mama taught me you shouldn't do potty talk, but I hope you don't mind, because this is a budget.
And Atima, shortly after that, which was in April, Democrats also started selling T-shirts with the phrase, a variation of it, to try to make some money off of it.
I mean, listen, 2 does not make the entire party, and I find it really laughable that Patrick would actually really say so. In her speech, she was talking about the fact that Trump is actually not even living up to the values and the ideas that he promised that when he came in on a populist wave, whether it was improving the cost of health care or ensuring jobs. Carrier, the place where he struck a financial deal, tax breaks to make sure those jobs stay there, they're still sending 600 jobs overseas. Health care bill has still not been negotiated. The score is going to kick $23 million off of that. I'm just saying, you know, this is like focusing on the fact that the Trump agenda is not getting through Congress.
So why not focus on that and the numbers that you just suggested versus throwing in, you know, a foul word here or there because you know, happen to be up for re-election or maybe possibly running for president, Patrick?
Well, again, this is absurd. Look, the answer is do as I say, not as I do. The bottom line is when you don't have anything to say and you don't have a message that causes you to lose your own base, which is what Hillary Clinton did, what the Democrats are now trying to do is figure out where they go from here. They're a bankrupt party without ideas and without leaders. So what you wind up with is backbenchers like Christian Gillibrand and Tom Perez going out and making this kind of noise because they can't get it any other way. What happened to the soaring rhetoric of Barack Obama and hope and change? What happened to Bill Clinton's bridge to the 21st century? I would suggest to you, while the Democrats make fun of Trump, they have brought the level of discourse down so low now that the American people are simply not going to pay attention to them unless they curse. We've entered a very sad place in this country if that's where the Democrats believe they can recover and get their brand back.
Yeah. All right. We'll see if it works moving forward. Thank you both for joining us this morning. I appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Heather.
All right, let's go over to Steve Doocy now.